Hey guys, Brad Danger here, and China did not out-design BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen. It outspent them, out-subsidized them, and then legally banned itself from doing it again once the job was finished. Every headline this year, it seems like it's all about German sales collapsing in China, but that is the symptom, not the disease. After days of research, I'm going to break down the exact four-play playbook that China ran to take its own car market away from BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and Porsche, and why that same playbook is already loading onto container ships headed for the rest of the world. Like, subscribe so we can hit 2 mil by the end of the year, and let's go. Hey guys, real quick, the giveaway for the Shelby and Supra and the $100,000 has ended, and well, the winners are being picked right now, but we're coming back bigger and badder and better. So click the link in the pinned first comment, because like Rocky, who won the GTR, like Greg, who won the 100K, you can sign up to be notified and get 100 free entries once it goes live. So click the link down below, go put in your email, and I can't wait to show you what we have cooking. All right, back to the show. All right, and the first move was sell at a loss until everyone else quits. That is pretty much the oldest trick in the book, except China ran it at a scale nobody has ever attempted before. By early 2026, profit margins across China's entire auto industry had collapsed to 3.2%, down from 4.4% just 1 year earlier. Roughly 70% of all the car sales in the country were losing money. Collectively, the industry burned through around $68 billion, keeping prices low enough to starve out the competition, and part suppliers were waiting up to 300 days just to get paid. At one point, more than half of the dealers in the entire country were losing money because manufacturers kept pushing factory prices below what dealers needed just to break even. That is not innovation. No amount of engineering explains selling a car for less than the metal and the costs. And once the foreign brands were bleeding enough and the weakest domestic players were already dead, Beijing did something no free market has ever done voluntarily. It banned itself from continuing. In February 26, the government made selling vehicles below cost illegal nationwide, effective immediately. It also cut the electric vehicle purchase tax exemption in half, from a full exemption down to 50%. The price war did not end because the market corrected itself. It ended because the government called time, right on schedule, right after it won. Even winners felt it. I mean, the Great Wall Motor posted steady growth and still watched its own net profit drop 17% because the entire industry was competing on price instead of margin. Okay, and then move 2. They locked up the battery supply chain. Now, the second move was never really aimed at cars. It was aimed at the parts sitting inside every single electric car on Earth. One company, CATL, supplies Tesla, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and dozens of other automakers worldwide, and Chinese firms control somewhere around 70% of global battery production. BYD does not even need to buy from anyone else. It is simultaneously the largest electric vehicle maker on the planet and its own second largest battery producer. Both companies have pushed charging speeds to the point where 5 minutes on a charger adds somewhere between 200 and 300 miles of range, fast enough that people who cover this industry for a living have started saying it makes gasoline irrelevant. Go back to December 2025, China quietly made a new battery fire safety standard mandatory, requiring 2 hours of protection instead of the old 5-minute warning window. Because almost everyone on the planet sources Chinese battery cells, that standard effectively became the global standard overnight, whether any other government voted on it or not. Then, just to make sure nobody else could close the gap, China placed export license requirements on 8 core battery technologies in the middle of 2025, which means foreign automakers cannot legally get their hands on the newest version of the exact technology already sitting inside their own vehicles. This is like owning the only flour mill in town and then personally deciding what kind of bread every bakery in the neighborhood is allowed to bake, including the one trying to compete with you. BMW and Mercedes are paying money into the same supply chain that is quietly writing the rulebook for the entire electric future. Then, number 3. They outran everybody. Yes, the third move does not have one big dramatic headline. It's just relentlessness. In a single recent month, 20 different Chinese automakers each posted more than 10,000 electric vehicle sales, and 21 separate models individually crossed 21,000 sales. That is a level of product density that no single legacy brand can match, one platform at a time. A 100-year-old car company plans a platform on 5 to 7 year cycles and treats that as fast. China Right now, there are more genuinely competitive electric models launching in a single year than BMW's entire global lineup. You cannot outplan a company who treats last year's bestseller like it's already obsolete. Take the BYD Seagull, a small electric hatchback that sells domestically in China for around $10,000. The exported version, lightly reworked for European roads and regulations, still lists for around $25,000 over there, and it is still one of the cheapest new electric cars that you can buy on the entire continent. Nobody in Munich or Wolfsburg is building anything close to that price for that range. Now move 4, turn the whole machine outward. This is the move that answers the only question that actually really matters. What happens after China wins at home? China already passed Germany and Japan to become the single largest vehicle exporter on the planet, growing from roughly 4.9 million exported vehicles in 2023 to 7.1 million in 2025. Then 2026 happened and the growth curve went vertical. In June of 2026, China exported more than 1 million vehicles in a single month for the first time ever, up 75% from the year before. For the first half of the year, total exports hit just over 5 million vehicles, up 65% year over year. Electric vehicles made up more than half of everything shipped out that month for the first time ever, meaning every second car leaving China right now is electric. In the same stretch, domestic retail sales inside China fell almost 24%. Exports are not a bonus anymore. They are the entire growth engine, now accounting for more than a third of everything built in the country, up from a fifth of it just 1 year earlier. BYD alone exported over 170,000 vehicles in that single month, and overseas sales now make up more than 40% of its total volume. And they are not just filling shipping containers anymore, they are buying the finish line outright. BYD is in talks to take over idle Stellantis factory capacity in Europe. Geely is looking at Ford's old assembly line in Valencia, Spain. Another Chinese automaker is already eyeing Renault's plant in Rennes, France. That is the exact same playbook Japan and Korea ran decades ago to go from cheap imports to owning driveways all around the world. The difference is China is running it faster, and it is running it with the entire battery supply chain already sitting in its own pocket before the first ship even leaves the port. Now, we got to talk about a little honorable mention because Tesla's own supply chain is not exempt from any of this. Tesla's factory in Shanghai is one of its largest and most important plants on Earth, responsible for the majority of the vehicles Tesla exports to the rest of the world, and it runs on the same Chinese battery supply chain and the same Chinese export license system as every single one of its domestic competitors. The company that was supposed to be the one American brand immune to all of this is standing in the exact same line as BMW and Mercedes, waiting on the same government to say yes. So here's what the takeaway is. This was never really about a story about BMW ugly grills or overpriced heated seats. That was just the part everyone could actually see. The real story is a government and an industry that ran on 4-move playbook with more patience and more coordination than any single car company on the planet. Win the home market by any means necessary. Lock up the raw materials so nobody else can even build around you. Outrun everyone on speed once the field is empty. Then turn every factory outward the moment the home fight is basically won. Germany, America, and everyone else has spent the last decade treating this as a temporary phase that could correct itself on its own. It's not a phase. It is a finished chapter, and the next one already has factories being bought in Spain and France to prove it. The only real question left is not whether this playbook works outside of China. It already does. The only question left is how much of the driveway is left for everybody else by the time it is finished. So let me know your thoughts. And by the way, if you live in Europe or in Mexico or in Canada, how many Chinese manufactured vehicles are you seeing on the roads compared to a year ago? I'd love to find out. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe so we can hit 2 mil by the end of the year. Definitely go to winthisIdealCar.com to get entered to win your dream car plus cash. Check out some of these Ideal vids over here. I'm Brad Danger. This is Ideal, and promise me one thing. Keep living the ideal lifestyle.